do the welcome back.
Welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. Got it right this time.
Yes.
I'm still Robert Winters.
And I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm still Will MacArthur.
Yeah.
Now, before the break, we were talking a little bit about,
After the break.
sort of,
Or before the break.
I guess it
right?
was before the break, yeah. About things like tracking differentiating instructions, sort of homogeneous versus heterogeneous classrooms. I really want to just give a little more of an update about how things are done in different places. So now, when you were in the elementary program at Graham and Parks, right? And did each grade, let's talk different subjects. Like, I know mathematics. Let me just ask mathematics first. So in mathematics, was in a particular grade level where all students taking the same thing at each grade level? Or did it split?
Up through the first semester of 8th grade, everyone was in the same classroom, and there was some differentiated instruction in like the second semester of 7th grade and the first semester of 8th grade. And then in the second semester of 8th grade, there was a lot of parent pressure that led to the creation of like an accelerated class for students who wanted to get Algebra 1 finished before the end of middle school.
That kind of makes a little sense that if there is a decision like that to be made, that it might happen around 8th grade, right? It could happen at 7th, but the thing is, that makes a little sense. I mean, 8th grade is like on the doorstep of high school, and in high school you're making choices anyway, so I guess that makes some sense. Now at the high school, I know when I went to high school, there was 10th grade, everything was different, right? It was, and again, I'm only speaking mathematics now. It was like 10th grade, algebra.
Geometry.
We did algebra in 9th grade, but not everybody did. Some people took business math, as it was called. And they did geometry, then it was like algebra trig, and then AP calculus for some of us.
Did algebra 1 and then geometry.
Yeah, I don't actually know what the typical sequence is.
At Ringe, most people...
What's required?
So you have to take Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and then one class after that. So there's and after that you take pre-calc, math reasoning, function statistics, and trigonometry. So most people I would say that most people who are looking to take an AP math class take pre-calc.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's AP Calculus AB, Calculus BC, and then there's AP Comp Sci, which is co-taught by a Ringe teacher and a Microsoft employee, and there's statistics.
So in mathematics, is it fair to say that by the time you're making it to high school, everybody's kind of splitting into lots of different choices and levels, or
maybe not freshmen.
Or is it like most students are sort of following a stock sequence?
Math is, I would say, I've noticed, especially in the grades that are slightly younger than mine, so like the class of 2017 and the class of 2018, a large number of students have finished Algebra 1 before they get to Ringe. So then you end up with a group of people who are just never in a math class with their own peers and their own grade level.
That isn't good.
And so there's kind of like a split before people even get to Ringe.
Sure.
So they should do something about that.
Well, I mean, I guess one point of view is you should get everybody to take algebra early.
Well, I thought that was a movement years
otherwise.
ago. I thought they was doing that back in 7th grade years ago. There was a movement to
It
do
was
that.
like algebra.
The algebra
first
project,
movement.
wasn't that
Bob
something?
Moses and
Yeah,
such.
so what happened to that? They never did it?
Well, I think it's been implemented, but it's sort of unevenly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, what about other subjects? My guess here being if you're doing social studies, and you're going, by the way, to Harvard next year.
Yep.
Yay,
as a social studies
congratulations.
concentrator, or at least that's what you feel right now. You might change your mind. Harvard students do have a right to change their mind, right? So I guess we called it social studies when I was in high school. But it really involved history, social studies, a lot of things, geography.
Ringe has just a huge number of just awesome history electives.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like,
give me a for instance.
Yeah.
So
you were a TA of one, weren't you?
So I could just think of all the history classes I've taken at Ringe. So I took the required ones, which is just
History of Western civilization, or whatever
there's
they used to call it. That world.
yeah. US 1 and US 2
But you
APA.
can't just do Western civilization now.
No, I know. Well, I know it's changed. My daughter, she
Well,
loved the Civil War. I think she did a whole thing on Civil War.
Well, actually, just this year they added a great world history class and a comparative government class.
Oh, That's smart. Yeah.
And they've been really popular. I'm in World right now, and it's awesome. And
Do they do anything about Asia or Central America or any of that kind of? Yeah.
yeah, it's I think the mandate from the College Board is less than 20% Europe, and
Wow.
it's from
That's
it's from
changed.
6,000 years ago to
Interesting.
today. And
Gosh.
it's been a great class. We go to the Harvard Art Museum a lot and look at.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, the
ancient
resources around here are great. Yeah.
And then there's a modern world history class, taught by Miss Audie, and so we basically just, it's almost like we just look at the headlines and examine like the geopolitical underpinnings of.
Did any
what's
of your
happening.
teachers ever use
And
Howard?
trying not to
Yeah.
sink into despair, right?
Did any of your teachers either in grammar school use the Howard Zinn's People's History of the United States?
Not as the main text.
But you know what I'm
we've-
talking about.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
read. I've read the whole thing, but in class I've read
okay.
sections of it
All right.
Right.
as like
Yeah.
counter arguments to the main text.
Good. That would
Now-
never happen in Texas. or
One thing that every couple of years, I think it's sort of probably tuned to the political season for municipal elections, somebody will pipe up and say, we need to do more civics education in the schools.
Well, actually, they're
you know.
saying that across the country.
Yeah, but you don't always hear it. But around Cambridge, I definitely hear it when
Around
candidates
election
are
time,
piping
yeah.
up about that.
That's
so do they
interesting.
actually do something that
Yeah.
might be categorized as some
Yeah.
sort of civic education or?
Like
It's
branches of government, and I guess that's covered in
it's
U.S. government,
incorporated
right?
into the U.S. history classes.
Right.
Okay.
I would definitely agree that we need more civics education.
In terms of voter responsibility or voter education.
I think you had the stat on your website that like the median registered voter in Cambridge is
right.
36, and the median
Yeah.
voter in municipal elections in their
50-some
mid 50s.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
I think that a huge source of that is people just don't really understand how our municipal elections work, and I feel like if people felt
Well, actually,
more informed
Well-
and more empowered.
that might be true. But the thing is that in terms of the numbers, I think if you look at the voter turnout and the distribution of voters by age in Cambridge, if you were to compare it to a city like Boston, which has a pretty cut and dried election system, I think our
More
percentages
voters.
are actually higher.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
I think it's, if you look nationally, there's just basically,
Yeah.
once upon a time, let me be perfectly honest
Yeah.
about it. Back in the day when political patronage was the way you did business, and you wanted to get a job on the city or whatever, there was a self-interest in being involved in civic affairs because it might make the difference between getting a job or getting some benefit or whatever. For the most part, that's not the way things work in most places anymore. So that level of self-interest doesn't seem to resonate with voters, so people don't tune in. This is absolute truth, okay? I've been testing this lately. My theory has been that the most invisible layer of government, from municipal to state reps, state senates, et cetera, up to governor, president, whatever, there's an invisibility level at the state rep, state senate level, even more so than at the city council level.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is I think the average person doesn't have a direct connection. So it may be true that the state senate and the state reps and the governor are sort of setting tax rates, and that does affect you. But in the day-to-day life, you don't ever feel that connection.
Or maybe you do feel it in terms of like the education policy that the state of Massachusetts sets, but you don't know that you're feeling it because of like a lot of people blame laws that were passed by the Massachusetts state government on the president, which I think
Right.
Oh, I see what you're
maybe if
saying.
people had just an understanding of
Well, that's
Yeah.
the
way
legislative process, then
just understanding what level of government is responsible for,
For what?
things.
That's
and,
true,
And how
yeah.
you can get on the train and
Yeah.
affect things, because you really can. I mean, that's,
Right.
And I'm not just saying because I know a lot of political people, but the thing is that even relatively non-political people, you can ring up a person working for a state rep and actually get something started. You can light a fire and you can make
Yeah.
things happen. It's really
Even
possible.
at the federal level. I mean,
Even
they
at the
all have
federal
fun,
level.
but it's true.
Yeah.
So I think that would be important to have more education about direct, how to get involved as a citizen.
But I would also say,
Yeah.
I could imagine it would be intimidating, since we still don't really have elected officials who are representative of, like, their constituencies in terms of gender, in terms of race, in terms of socioeconomic
Where? Are you
status.
talking about in general? or?
Just in the United States. Like,
Relatively so, yeah. I think I wouldn't disagree. I mean, I think, the founding fathers, way, way, way back when, they probably had this notion that you had people from all walks of life. Of course, it was all men back then, right?
Yeah, it still
So
is a
we've
lot.
sort of been working on that for a few hundred years. But what has happened is that with every passing year, except for a certain exterminator from Texas, Tom DeLay, he was actually, it's basically lawyers, people pretty connected, usually people from more reasonably well-to-do economic classes are the ones that tend to find their way into the more powerful positions. I don't think that was the design, but that's kind of what has happened. So.
Well, it takes money. You got to get rid of the money.
But the other thing too is that I always bemoan the lack of quality candidates for various elected offices, and this is not a statement to demean anybody who's in elected office. But the truth is that if you look at some of the candidates who throw their hats in the ring, they're not. It's not the greatest thing, because I think a lot of people who have a lot to offer just choose to do other things. Now, maybe there's some good reasons why you choose not to seek elected office, because maybe it's too much of a pain. Maybe you have to spend half your time being a fundraiser. There's a lot of reasons.
Or you
why.
might have a lot of personal stuff that you don't want aired, and it's gotten so bad that people will, tweet about you or find something out about you. That
I don't
your
need
life
the
isn't
abuse.
private.
Yeah, so I think that we have some sort of fundamental problems in the way
Getting people to serve.
politics works in this country, that it dissuades people from running for office who should be running for office, and dare I say, even encourages some people to run who shouldn't be running for office.
Well, I'm reading something, and there was a reference to the Anita Hill hearings back in '91, and it said because she was testifying in front of all men, all white men, that there was an uptick in women running for office in the years after that.
Yeah.
Because it began a movement almost to say, what is going on here? Because there were I think Patricia Schroeder was in the Senate or something.
I think sometimes that's the way it works, is you have to have something
to see
terrible.
this glare. Well, hopefully that's going to happen this year. We've got this.
Always look at the bright side of life, right?
I'm not saying that.
If this isn't the greatest object lesson on political systems gone crazy.
Let me ask you, you're a young person. Can you vote yet?
I will be able to vote in the general election.
Wow.
And in the primary for state level offices in Massachusetts.
So,
but I was not able to vote in the presidential primary.
What's the feeling at the high school? You and your cohorts about what's going on with this election.
At the presidential level?
Well, yeah.
Well, if I could have voted, I would have voted for Secretary Clinton. And I would say that's a feeling that's not entirely shared by the rest of the high school.
Because you have Bernie bros and all that.
Well, I wouldn't even characterize him as Bernie bros.
But it's more the youth and the excitement.
I've had very interesting and principled disagreements with people about kind of just the role of the president.
Yes.
Right.
And the role of idealism versus pragmatism, and I think it's been a very interesting discussion. There are people who insist that I heard someone say that there's no way that Cambridge actually voted for Clinton, which it did.
Oh my gosh.
And
you tell those people. I was one of the many people that went out and knocked on doors, so I know they did.
That's become,
you tell that to people.
That's become almost like a cottage industry.
I don't believe
is
it.
Allegations of rigged anything,
I think
that's amazing.
I think that's fascinating, though.
Yeah.
Because I think what that says is that our personal experiences of the world can be very skewed by just the people we interact with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with tracking at the high school. I just think regardless of whether you think classes should be tracked at all, I just think we need to be very cognizant of a system that could lead to people only interacting with people who have had similar life experiences to them.
That is so true. That's what people say about people that have never gone anywhere out and explored another culture, that it does make you very narrow in what your views are. That's very interesting.
We have a teen health survey
Yeah.
at CRLS where they ask about alcohol use and drug use
Right.
and sexual activity. And
Yeah.
the first response when the results always come out is people disbelieving the survey instead of questioning
Amazing.
what has led them to have a specific experience at the
Right.
high school.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is something. Well, they just need to be more educated.
You know, once upon a time,
I wouldn't
Yeah.
blame anyone.
No, but I just think they need to open
someone's
up.
lived experiences.
Right,
I think
but-
it's just interesting that people have.
Yeah.
you know, there was a time the dissemination of news was largely nationally, at least, or even locally, was curated through just a relatively few network stations, or else the newspaper that everybody read. What's tended to happen now is newspapers are sort of dying out. So there's no common water cooler around which to gather to learn common information. Internet is wonderful. However, it also has created these system of silos where the moveon.org message goes out that this is truth, and people who are tuned to that, that's all they hear.
That's all they hear. Right.
I'm sure the Trump people or
Yep.
the Rush Limbaugh crowd. So you tend to have these silos
Yeah.
that have very, very little interaction, which is very much what you were referring to there as well. If all you know is what your own personal echo chamber is echoing, and then some actual data comes back, like a survey or whatever, you say, how can that possibly be?
Yeah.
Everybody in my echo chamber thinks otherwise, right? That's a real problem, and it's a problem locally, it's a problem at the state level, and it's
Yeah.
definitely a problem nationally.
And I guess it's a problem in our schools. Huh.
I mean,
Wow.
because Cambridge itself is definitely a bit of an echo chamber.
Yes.
But I think it's notable that even within Cambridge, we definitely all have our own personal echo chambers
Yeah.
that don't represent our city as a whole.
That's absolutely true. That's what we saw something in the newspaper. I remember looking at it, and it was about some survey you did about to do with the election, and we kind of laughed because they said, do you remember what I'm referring to? It was in the
Bernie
forum.
Sanders was already president or something.
Yeah, it was some outrageous thing.
You read
Remember
our,
what that
joke
was?
headlines?
Wait, that wasn't a joke headline.
Wait.
Oh wait, and people believed it though. Was that it?
Wait,
It was like the students had some.
I'm sure there are some who would.
Are you talking about in the register form?
Yeah, it was the most
Yeah.
recent one.
Oh yeah, it was our.
What was
we
that?
have a next month's headlines, satirical headlines.
Okay,
section.
good.
I'm
All
so
right.
glad that you read that.
Oh, goodness. So that wasn't true.
No.
All right.
Something we
Sorry.
read, we
It
thought
goes
it
in
was.
there.
Oh, I'm actually relieved because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
pretty. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it might have. It seemed like it had a grain of truth to it.
Well, that's
Oh,
listen,
okay, maybe that was it.
Since
Yeah.
I write an April Fool's edition of Cambridge Civic
Which I
Journal every
believed,
year
yeah,
now,
right.
the right way to do an April Fool's gag is to write it to make it just believable enough
Yeah.
so that people will get at least into the second paragraph before
Right,
they start
before
going,
they say,
wait
"Oh,
a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really the right way to do it. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. That's interesting though that you refer to her as Secretary Clinton. That's so
Well, it's,
so mature. I don't even say that. I say Hillary.
yeah.
I mean,
But I just I mean my daughter is 28 and she is a Hillary supporter, and she's been like delisted or something on Facebook. I mean she really just
I've been unfriended on Facebook by many
I
Sanders
mean it's
supporters.
just I mean she's tired of defending herself, and it's like it's
Well,
just
you know what?
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
The Sanders supporters at Ringe, I would say, are generally a lot more vocal.
Well, in general, I think they are out there in the world because I heard something on the radio today that said, I keep hearing that Hillary doesn't have the support or the passion out there. She said, these are people that aren't going to the rallies. They may have kids. They may have a job. They're coming home at night. They're not going to these rallies. So you're not hearing that kind of, she doesn't attract that kind of, thousands of people.
All right, so here's my $64
Yeah.
Political question.
Uh-oh.
I've been sort of ruminating a little bit about this, just speaking at the presidential political level here. What's actually going to happen in July? There will be I think is that the Republican primary.
They're first.
Convention happens first.
First, yeah.
Like middle of June, and then a week later
Not June,
is
July.
In July, excuse me, and then followed by the Democratic
Right,
one.
in Philly.
Now, there was a lot of speculation there was going to be a battle royal at the Republican one,
think
but
so.
now it's starting to look with their winner-take-all elections. Thank
Yeah.
you, not a bit.
Yeah.
So that it'll just be sort of the presumptive nominee will become the nominee, and then the only issue is
Who's his VP?
who knows? You can guess on that.
I can't,
Whichever
actually.
sellout you
I don't
pick a
know.
sellout. But there was good speculation. Would there be a third party thing? Somehow I doubt it.
I don't think so.
Because they would be viewed as just sort of just helping
Spoilers.
to elect the
Right,
Democrat in a
right.
three-way race. Then, that's one of the realities of the way we do things with electoral college. What I'm starting to think about a lot is what's going to happen in the third week of July. Now, I think it's a pretty safe bet to say Secretary Clinton will become the Democratic nominee, right? I think one thing I saw in an article today that says Bernie would have to win 105% of the remaining delegates in order to
Well,
get
I
the
heard-
nomination.
Oh.
So the math is becoming a bit of a challenge. But the thing is that here's the thing, and this was my whole point, was that so let's say that the time comes, there's some evening, some Tuesday night or whatever, and they do the roll, and maybe it's on the first ballot, and then they nominate and they declare Hillary Clinton to be the nominee. Mm-hmm. What happens then to the supporters of the other principal candidate? Do they, and I'm not just talking about the delegates who are probably a little bit more well-behaved, but what about the supporters? Do they go crazy? Do they, be riots in the street?
I don't think so.
At least-
Bernie's?
yeah.
No.
At least at Ringe, I think the general view is that
Yeah.
there are two very qualified Democratic candidates for president. I know if Sanders were the nominee, I would vote for him
Yeah.
over
Me too.
Trump in a heartbeat.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I would vote for a piece of plywood.
Yeah.
over-
But I mean,
Right.
if you look at the exit polls from West Virginia,
Yeah.
they also said that a quarter of Sanders supporters there, their second choice was Trump.
I know,
not
but you know what? That's
But
a quarter of and they're probably
Yeah.
the white male voters, and yes,
and
that's
I'm,
true.
Again,
Yeah.
I'm not entirely convinced that would be a truthful response, because I think at this point here there's a lot of sort of posturing until it's reality. I'm going to be a little skeptical.
Yeah, but
about
West
such
Virginia is
results.
kind of not a real Democratic state. West Virginia.
Right.
And my theory, I mean, she won West Virginia in 2008, Hillary, because she was running against Obama, who was an African American.
Right.
And now she's running, she ran against a white man. And I think blacks, no, women, no, whites, okay. I mean, I think there's a lot of that going on. I
Right.
really do.
Right,
So-
but I'm again maybe I'm just interested in a little fun
Yeah.
this summer, right? Having lived through the 1968 convention in Chicago, which
Wow.
wasn't a lot of fun because
No, that was violent. That was different.
Well, the violence wouldn't have happened. I think
That
were
was a
not for the
contested
police
convention. I don't
who
think
triggered
the
it.
Democratic will be contested.
I don't think
mean,
it'll be contested, but the thing is that people are talking about
You're
how
gonna-
good the passion of the Sanders supporter is, and
Yeah.
I'm certainly willing to accept that as true. But passion can become inflamed passion too.
But wait a minute, but the people in that auditorium, whatever, are the delegates.
No, I'm not talking about the delegates.
Are you talking about after
I-
the convention's over?
I'm already assuming that there will be busloads and busloads of people,
Yeah.
sort of refugees from the Occupy movement, who will be there and will want to have an
Yeah.
incident.
Well,
And,
wasn't there recently an incident? I heard something in the news that Bernie had to not apologize for his supporters, but something got violent on his side. Did you know anything about this?
I'm not sure.
It was probably an isolated incident, but
Was it a
there's
rally or something?
there's almost no such thing as an isolated incident anymore, because if somebody just stumbled or
Yeah.
tripped over somebody, the next thing you know, you'd be Twittered and Facebook, and it would be treated.
Yeah,
like
I guess it was. Yeah, it
like a
got
nuclear
out of hand.
incident.
It was got
Yeah.
too supportive or whatever. And
Yeah.
you're right. I think we could have that.
Yeah,
Because it's also in Philadelphia, which is easy to get
Yeah.
to from the East
right.
Coast.
Did I say Chicago? I think.
Well,
I did
no,
say-
you said Chicago in terms of 1968, but
right, but the
Democrats in Philly, it's in
Republicans
Cleveland.
are in Cleveland.
Cleveland, right.
Democrats in Philadelphia.
and you're going to have demonstrations, I bet, in Cleveland.
I imagine you will. Yeah.
Well, I think you're seeing the Republican establishment already
Yeah.
start to just accept that he's their nominee.
Oh, he'll definitely accept him, but they'll be outside the convention.
And actually, I think you're right, and I'm actually seeing, I mean, personally, when I see some part of the Republican establishment just cave in and say, okay, well, I guess he's our guy, we have to rally around the flag, boys, I'm thinking, come on, have a little spine. You know, I
Yeah.
was kind of hoping that maybe some of the Republicans on the national stage would just sort of stand up and go, no.
No, but they don't want
Unacceptable.
Hillary. They do
I mean,
not want
but
Hillary,
also,
so
like-
they have to support the Republican
Well,
I think
candidate.
I do think for the front runners on both sides, for Trump and Clinton, I think it's regardless of what anyone personally thinks about them, they got the majority or the plurality, at least for Trump, of their party's votes.
Right.
And I do think that. Like,
Well, delegates, but you know, she's the biggest vote getter of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
People don't ever mention that.
And I think Trump's the biggest Republican vote getter.
He-
Right,
Yeah.
out of that, right.
He is, but let's
Like-
also be reminded that
Yeah.
when they did polling of
Yeah.
all the people who were voting in the primaries in the early rounds,
Yeah.
and who got the highest disapproval ratings amongst all 17 Republican candidates.
You mean back early on,
I think it was Trump.
probably.
So the thing is so you win the election, and the rules are the rules,
Yeah.
and you win under the rules, so you're entitled to become the nominee.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll lead to people changing the rules.
Oh, they're
after
definitely
the-
going to change them next time because they
I mean, there's a
changed
lot
it
of anger,
after.
justifiable anger, I say,
Right.
about super
I think they
delegates.
changed it after Romney.
Actually, the
Right?
superdelegates for the Democratic side
Yeah.
was largely an outgrowth of what happened, I think,
80
in 72.
with something with Kennedy.
When McGovern
mean,
got
McGovern?
nominated and then
McGovern?
swept.
Yeah, I think it was a thing where there was people who were considered to be sort of independents were just sort of rushing in and tipping the scales, and people said, well, wait a minute, we don't want to game our system, so we want to have a kind of
Yeah.
a ballast put in there to kind of balance against that. So,
Well,
so I imagine there'll be some changes in the Democratic rules, and there'll definitely be some changes in the Republican rules.
it's going to be a fun summer.
It's going to be a fun summer.
Overall, for the Democrats, it's been a pretty productive nominating.
I think
process.
so.
I think
Yeah.
so too. So anyway, we'll see how that shakes out,
Shakes
and
out. Well, nice
you know,
to hear your point of view. I'm very happy about that.
yeah, and, stick around, and we'll have
Yeah.
maybe we'll draft you again.
Yes, you'll be
So-
around. You're going to
Anyway,
Harvard.
we're out of
right.
time now, so until
Thank
next
you, Will.
time,
Thank you. My
And
pleasure.
Cambridge Inside Out.
right.